Good afternoon. My name is Graham McRae from Cluster 7. I'd like to thank you all for spending the next half hour or so with us. What we want to do in this session is really to explore how best to enhance your spreadsheet risk management, offer a three-step approach to addressing the issue. So the agenda this afternoon, first of all, we'll explore the issues around spreadsheet risk and the impact it can have on the business and its significance. And then my colleague Daniel will take you through a three-step approach to actually enhance your spreadsheet risk management. Now, we did have quite a few attendees this afternoon from quite a few sectors, including manufacturing, distribution and financial services and retail as well. So if we move around a bit, please be patient. We want to make sure everyone finds this whole session as useful as possible. If you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A box and we'll do our best to answer them at the very end. So, spreadsheet risk in the business. Spreadsheets, as I think we're all aware, remain pervasive in the business. They're hugely powerful, they're very flexible, they're essential to helping businesses remain flexible and dynamic and effective. There are issues associated with using spreadsheets in this way, and what we're finding is that auditors are now scrutinising spreadsheets far more closely, both in the UK, with the Financial Reporting Council looking much more closely at the standard of audit applied by the organisations they regulate. The same can be said of the PCAOB in the United States, who are looking very closely at how spreadsheets and spreadsheet risk management is impacting the Sarbanes-Oxley legislation. Now, when it comes to spreadsheet risk, an organisation is more likely to have risk associated with these areas, particularly if they have a little understanding of what spreadsheets are being used throughout the business. If there's little understanding of the business impact should there be an interruption. If there's a lack of clear ownership of the spreadsheets. And if there's no change control in place as well. Equally, if there are highly complex spreadsheets used in the business, again, spreadsheet risk, which is the impact on the business should there be an error emerge within the spreadsheets, the chances are that a complex spreadsheet will lead to more spreadsheet risk. So let's look at the theory of kind of how an organisation typically is organised. Classic economic theory suggests you have an input, there's a transformation process, and then there's an output. In reality, obviously, there are corporate IT systems from a range of vendors that organisations will use to actually create value for their customers and obviously generate profit. The reality of this environment is that whilst you do have a corporate IT environment, maybe using Microsoft or SAP and other applications, Microsoft Excel spreadsheets will be used very often for data input, for migrating data from one system to another, and also for reporting as well. And this is how typically a spreadsheet will kind of evolve in the corporate process, but typically it's because someone needs to run a report very quickly at month end or at quarter end, and suddenly that spreadsheet is embedded within the process, but without any controls or without any visibility, but nonetheless the business process remains dependent upon it. This becomes yet more complex if you have multiple business processes, again using multiple applications from vendors. You've got the issue of final mile reporting. Very often spreadsheets are used to actually integrate many of the data flows throughout the business. And again, if you're using a spreadsheet which is not controlled, which doesn't have any visibility or auditability, particularly from a financial reporting point of view or a regulatory compliance point of view for financial institutions, there can be significant issues through spreadsheet risk. In extreme cases, you might have separate business units, again using the spreadsheet to actually consolidate results and deliver their financial results to the head office function. So again, final mile reporting and use of spreadsheets within business processes can contribute significantly to spreadsheet risk in the business. So let's look at what the impact of that might be. Again, these will vary from company to company, from sector to sector. But if you use spreadsheets throughout the business process, and it's not perhaps controlled in the way that you control your corporate IT systems, there may be issues around effective cost control. There may also be issues around revenue recognition. Project delivery could be compromised as well. And there can be, if you have problems with project delivery, cost control, revenue recognition, you're going to have reputational issues as well. It may be commercial, it may be contractual, it may be legal, certainly reputational, and for a lot of organisations, regulatory as well. There are obviously issues around management reporting as well. So if all this information is being passed to the senior level management to make strategic decisions based on inaccurate information, the chances are the decisions they will make will be suboptimal at best. So, how can we help? I'll now have to hand over to Daniel to take you through an approach that can address spreadsheet risk for you.
All right, thank you, Graham. Yes, so I think the core point to initially mention is that by no means we are saying Excel spreadsheets, or the usage of Excel spreadsheets within any organization is a bad thing per se. It's just a way to control it and in effect manage it. And I suppose for the purpose of this seminar, how kind of in part our solutions can assist you with the audit processes around end user computing applications, which we find both through kind of like speaking with our clients, but also through speaking with a number of our partner organizations, and these range from be it the Big Four through to kind of like smaller niche consultancies, on how to actually sort of apply, or that it is rather difficult actually from an audit perspective to get a full grip around end user computing applications. So the three-step approach that Graham outlined is kind of like pretty much centered around three core processes, and these are kind of like discovery, inventory, and as well as the active monitoring or change control around Excel spreadsheets. So if we look at a typical bank, and it could in fact be of any organization, with a range of different departments. So in this sample here, we've got sales, distribution, as well as reporting. So sort of across all the various divisions, and obviously as you can see here, they are luckily contained within one building. Often that will not be the case, but obviously each of these different departments or groups are using kind of like individual spreadsheets, and that is something so that we see on a daily basis amongst our client base. And often what happens is, so spreadsheets are being passed either via email or again by, sort of sharing them across file shares, so from one department to the next. So from an internal audit perspective, obviously one of the challenges would be to actually get an understanding, of what are the various spreadsheets, and most importantly, what are the important or critical spreadsheets that are being used by the different groups. So one of the solutions that we can assist with is really centered around the discovery process. So in fact, we have a solution that allows you to to scan network file shares, and in fact identify what is the universe, or what is the state of Excel spreadsheets across the different departments. So the way to actually deploy that, I mean, some clients kind of like are very eager to do it at kind of like a corporate level, which is not something that we would typically suggest. So what we would suggest is to, for example, use a discovery process by way of chunking, i.e., sort of understanding, well, okay, I want to interrogate the sales team, and actually see so what is the state there. I then may want to run a scan across the distribution group, and then later on across the reporting function. Where we can also assist is, and that is something that again is very frequent, is to understand what is the data lineage between these various Excel spreadsheets. And obviously that could extend to database connections, ODBC connections, for example, as well. So again, we can assist by way of providing you our spidering solution, which allows you to in fact follow the data lineage. So you can point it at a certain Excel spreadsheet, and then we can show you what the data lineage is, and which other Excel files, databases, or of any other applications. It could be SAS modules, or certain MATLAB files, for example. So what is what are actually the relevant connections on there? What we then also provide as part of our solution set is that we can actually assist you with the identification of critical or more risky Excel spreadsheets. Now, it's important to understand that there is no software in the market that facilitates you to understand, well, okay, which of my 100, 1,000, 100,000, or 1 million spreadsheets is a business critical one from a materiality perspective. However, where we can assist is by undertaking a risk check of certain Excel spreadsheets, and we can do this on bulk or on an individual basis. And that will point you to the kind of like level of technical complexity. So what we're looking at is that we have some 60 out-of-the-box rules that we can deploy to interrogate Excel spreadsheets. And what we're looking at here is things such as file size, number of worksheets, number of links to other Excel spreadsheets, the kind of complexity of the macro contained within the Excel spreadsheet. You may have some departments, and often, particularly within finance departments, for example, you may not want to have a lot of finance divisions work on the basis of zero macro, zero pivot. So, so you may want to actually understand, well, okay, does a finance function, do we have any Excel spreadsheets that contain VBA macros, which should naturally in there? We're also looking at things such as sort of magic numbers, certain kind of like formatting tricks used by many developers. This could be things such as identify white font or a white cell background, where information is effectively hidden away from users. And again, we are not taking a judgment here to say, sort of any of these practices are bad. Ultimately, this is something that has to be driven by the organization, and it may be something that so that comes from sort of operational risk. Sometimes you will find these parameters contained within an end-user computing policy. If you're as far as having one of those in place, but obviously also from the audit side, you will want to understand, kind of well, what are the linkages, and what is the level of complexity within certain files. We can, in effect, with this risk check capability, we can also do cell level searching across Excel spreadsheets. So you can search for particular terms which are in fact configurable. So you can extend our rule set, but you can find bits of words such as confidential or profit and loss or highly important, etc. And it can also actually be deployed, obviously, with the new regulation that everyone is talking about at the moment, GDPR coming into play in May. So you could actually also search for client identifiable data, which I suppose would also be of interest to the internal audit side. If we then take it to kind of like the last level, so we have through the discovery process and the risk checking capability, which also in effect allows you to sort of often sort of stipulations from the regulators that that Graham has alluded to. Identify things such as sort of missing data, certain change formulas, stale data, etc. And also actually use the risk check, which is something that many of our clients do for sort of a specific audit process, be it related to kind of like CCAR, DFAST, IFRS 9, BCBS 239, and so forth. If we then go to the kind of like final component, which is really centered around the actual change monitoring within your critical Excel spreadsheets. So that is where our solution Enterprise Spreadsheet Manager comes into play, which allows you to, in effect, kind of like monitor and track changes which are occurring to your critical Excel spreadsheet. So this could be weekly generated finance report, it could be monthly tax reporting, or it could be a kind of like daily trade blotter, so that is being amended or worked at within an Excel spreadsheet. So what we do here is we in fact can put particular files under monitoring, and this will satisfy all the core guidelines related to version control, access control, kind of like backup and retention. So all of those changes would in fact be traceable. We can do it in conjunction with a kind of like sign-off, sort of review and approval process. But many of our clients actually just using it from an audit perspective, i.e. they don't require their users to kind of like sign off on changes they make within Excel spreadsheets, but from an audit perspective, they have in effect a full audit trail of any changes that are occurring within, so be it certain macros within an Excel file, as well as, kind of cell level changes, structural changes, i.e. I've added a new worksheet, and I therefore have the auditable record, and obviously that would hopefully make your lives easier when it comes to signing off on kind of like change processes within the organization.
Daniel, thank you very much. We do have a few questions that have come in from those attending. One of them from a couple of people is, we will be making the recording available later for those who signed on a little late. Daniel, there are a couple of questions that hopefully you can answer. How would you go about planning or implementing this type of solution in a business, would you suggest? What sort of thoughts, kind of principles?
I mean, typically it's centered around, the implementation is really centered around, in a way, the state that the current thinking within the organization is. So it can really be done from a kind of like, sort of very low level. You may just start it out. We had a recent press release from one of the challenger banks that we brought on in Q3 last year, Shawbrook Bank. The case study of that is actually on our website. But they've taken it from an from an operational risk perspective, driven the project from there, and they were just interested to actually improve their overall model governance processes. Other organizations which are looking at, and that is something that can be implemented so very, very quickly. Other organizations are looking, so from a more holistic perspective with regards to bringing an overall end-user computing policy into play within the organization. Now, we are really centered around, we are a technology provider, so we don't as such kind of like work on the sort of consultancy side of the business, but we do partner with a range of partner organizations that have the expertise in bringing in an end-user computing policy and actually on how best to implement this. But we also have a range of kind of like white papers that give at least some guidance on what to consider when putting together an end-user computing policy, but also on how to implement our software. And like I said, so I mean, something like this, it could be so something that could actually be implemented just from an audit perspective. I know we have 10, 15 critical files within the finance division. We could get a project set up and completed effectively within a couple of weeks. Where you just really want to have some audit functionality around some core changes. Obviously, if you're looking at a wider solution, then the key things to consider are really the kind of internal collaboration within different groups. So it shouldn't be just something that's driven by then either audit or operational risk departments. It should be something that should be coordinated across business, the risk function, risk and compliance, as well as the audit group.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. We've got one other question, and it's probably useful for everybody on the call. What type of projects are these sort of capabilities used in? Are they like business transformation projects? Are they compliance projects? What sort of projects do we typically get involved in?
So I mean, really, so we've been in the space for well over 15 years now. So we do work with clients globally. But again, it's also worth noting that we work with kind of like diverse so global corporations where we monitor spreadsheets across kind of like 5 continents and a large number of countries down to actually smaller teams as well. And in terms of the use case, so we do really pretty much cover everything from business transformation. The discovery module, for example, can assist you with your, Microsoft Office applications from, be it from version, going from Office 13 to Office 16, through to, the full scale, end-user computing projects. So there really is a wide kind of like use case. We have other organizations, it is one of our favorite examples, but BlackRock through to their being one of the largest sort of Excel spreadsheet factories. They actually deploy our software for each and every Excel spreadsheet model that they're developing before it is being put into production. So the use case really does vary from client to client, and there isn't a project, too large or too small, where at least some part of our software wouldn't be of potential use.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending this afternoon. We do hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, do steer them in my direction. I'm Graham McRae. I'm the Product Marketing Manager for Cluster 7. And my email address is on the screen now. Equally, if you want some more information, there's a wide variety available at cluster7.com. But with that, I'll say thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I do hope you've enjoyed it, and bid you farewell for the rest of the day. Thank you very much.